I'm Kenny Robison, Chairman and CEO of Crest Industries. This is my dad, Tucker Robison. In 1958, he started Midstate Electric. In 1990, I joined Crest Industries, which by then was our holding company. And this is just to show you where some of our production facilities are located. We are headquartered in Pineville, Louisiana. We operate 8 business units, started from scratch by us, over 1,300 employees, full-time employees. About half of those are in Louisiana. And we're projecting about $740 million in revenue this year. Now, Crest Industries turned 65 years old this year. And I remember when I was very young, the first time I heard the proverb, shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. For me, it was an inflection point, and I accepted the responsibility to beat that proverb. My dream is to build this company, this culture, so strong, so grounded in reality, so rooted in the best parts of humanity, that it will prosper beyond 1,000 years. Now, people have told me I'd have to be crazy to think I could build a 1,000-year company. Of course, I agree. Here's some of my heroes: Ayn Rand, Steve Jobs, Carl Sagan, and Andrew Galambos. One thing I notice about these folks is they're all a little crazy. And they'd have to be, to offer up new ideas for humanity that run so counter to the mainstream. They're a rare breed of crazy, and they're my heroes because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Think about this. 1,000 years from 1958, that's when Crest was founded, would put us in 2958. 2958. That is crazy. But wait. Marinelli has been making brass bells in Italy for over 1,000 years. Sean's Bar near Dublin has been serving drinks for over 1,100 years. In Salzburg, Austria, there's a restaurant called Stiftskeller. It's inside St. Peter's Abbey. It's been serving people since the Dark Ages. And who is Kongo Gumi? That's a Japanese construction company, family-owned, been operating since 578. So maybe building a 1,000-year company is not so crazy after all. Have you ever heard of the Long Now Foundation, or the Clock of the Long Now? I want to play a video for you. And in the video, Danny Hillis, who's co-founder of the Long Now Foundation, talks about why he's building a 10,000-year clock and how he's thinking about all the things that'll have to be achieved for a clock to function for 10,000 years. Let's watch.
I wanted to build something that gave us that sense of connection. And that's how I started thinking about the clock. My name is Danny Hillis, and I'm building a clock that will last for 10,000 years. When I had been a kid, the future had been out in the year 2000. Even when it got to be in the 1990s, we were still sort of just imagining what the year 2000 would be like. It was almost as if the future had been shrinking my entire life.
Danny Hillis sent around an email that he wanted to build a clock that would last 10,000 years. What? 10,000-year clock? Why?
Danny had been building some of the fastest supercomputers in the world.
He was pretty much the golden boy of MIT.
Everybody wanted to do things faster and faster and faster. I needed to slow down, stretch out, think on a different time scale. Any engineer, of course, wants to build something that lasts. But that doesn't mean it's easy to build.
How do you make rolling elements that last for 10,000 years?
The clock is built out of gears and levers and things that Galileo would have understood.
One of the ways we keep the clock accurate is to synchronize it to the sun.
That requires a lens like this big around out of course. Then, exactly at solar noon, the chimes begin to play.
The chime generator was developed by Brian Eno. They worked out a way of ringing 10 bells in a different sequence each day for 10,000 years.
From the very beginning, I wanted to be able to make a little model of the clock,
Our original prototype clock.
and then make a bigger one, and make a bigger one, and make a bigger one. I realized that the clock couldn't go into a building. It had to be in a mountain.
In trying to design a 10,000-year clock, we're invested in generational thinking and hoping to kind of answer the question, are we being good ancestors?
There is a problem of people not believing in the future. A long-term clock challenges those short-term civilizational stories.
I'm very optimistic about the future. I'm not optimistic because I think our problems are small. I'm optimistic because I think our capacity to deal with problems are great.
Danny's not optimistic because our problems are small. He's optimistic because our capacity to deal with problems is great. Yeah. Right, Danny. The image behind me is College Hall at New College, Oxford. This is a picture of Danny Hillis. I want to read you a portion of a story that Danny wrote about College Hall for the 1995 brochure for the Long Now Foundation. I think of the oak beams in the ceiling of College Hall at New College, Oxford. Last century, when the beams needed replacing, carpenters used oak trees that had been planted in 1386 when the dining hall was first built. The 14th century builder had planted the trees in anticipation of the time hundreds of years in the future when the beams would need replacing. Now, that story touches my heart because one of the first business units I started up with my dad was Crest Natural Resources. We own about 100,000 acres of timberland in Louisiana and East Texas. And it takes 30 years to grow a pine tree to maturity. We'll harvest them between 30 years and 50 years old, and then we'll replant. Okay, we can't build a 1,000-year company unless we design it first. So here we are in 2023. Now I'm 60 years old, so I'm giving myself the next 10 years to design the 1,000-year company. Now, a little secret, I don't know how to build a 1,000-year company, but I've been working on the problem statement. What are the questions, right? And like the 10,000-year clock, what are the challenges that we're going to have to overcome? So I want to share some of those questions with you today. This is just the beginning. And one more thing. I'm part of this community, and I'm not going away. This is a partnership. It's a brain trust. I would love to have your help on this journey. Okay. Here are 5 groups of questions and problems we'll have to answer over the next 10 years to build the 1,000-year company. Defining the company, stewardship model, operating system, systems thinking with exponential complexity, and cosmic purpose. First group. We'd better define our terms precisely if we want to know exactly what's going to live for 1,000 years. So let's look at the etymology of the word company. It has Latin roots, companus, com meaning with, pan meaning bread, companion, someone you share bread with. So company means a group of people. Well, a company is more than just a group of people, right? So I looked up the word business. Before I looked into it, I thought business was short for busyness, like busy, busy, busy. Turns out it's not. There's an old English word called busyness that meant care or anxiety. And that came from a High German word, bissig, that meant careful or diligent. I thought that was interesting. So let's switch. Let's call it 1,000-year business. All right, first question. What do we mean by business? Well, to me, business means the stuff we're anxious about taking good care of. Okay, second question. Besides the people and the assets, what is a business? Well, in the Western legal tradition, we treat a business like a person. It can transact, it can contract with other persons or other businesses. But is a business a person? Well, no, it's intangible. Turns out a business is a legal fiction. Other than the people and the assets, it's a set of ideas, relationships, commitments, know-how, and stories, especially the stories. Third question. Where does a business exist? We can locate the people and the assets, but where do the ideas, relationships, commitments, know-how, and stories exist? Well, think about it. They exist in the individual minds of anyone who's in any way affected by the business, and in the spaces between those minds, right? It's dynamic, it's constantly in motion. Okay, second group of questions. We need to design a stewardship model. First question. Who will own the financial value and the cash flow of the company? Second question. Who will govern the business and with what structure? Third question, and I think this is probably the toughest challenge, how will we ensure succession for management, governance, and financial ownership? All right, third group of questions. We'll need to design our operating system. First question, how will we develop and deploy strategy? How far out should we be thinking? A decade or two? A century? You know, at Crest, we use a system we call OGSM. It's an acronym. It stands for Objectives, Goals, Strategies, and Measures. We learned it from Procter & Gamble, who learned it from Toyota. And we've gotten really good at the 1-year OGSM, pretty good at the 2 to 3. We're currently working on developing a 10-year OGSM, but honestly, we're struggling with it. My team and I find it to be a real stretch. But to compete for 100 decades, we're going to have to be intentional about long-term strategy development. All right, second question. Who and where will our customers, employees, and suppliers be over the next 1,000 years? Today, we're a US-centric business thinking about going global. Now, my son Jackson, youngest son, who's in the audience today, he jokes about when Elon Musk gets us to Mars, Jackson wants to build the first electrical distribution system on Mars. But he's only halfway joking. How are we going to run an interplanetary business? Over 1,000 years, will we have employees? Will they all be contractors? Will they all be machines? Anybody ever heard of Ray Kurzweil? What does Ray Kurzweil expect in the next decade or so? Sentient AI. Sentient AI. Ray doesn't believe AI is going to kill us all. He believes they'll be our descendants. Okay, third question. How do we create value for AI to buy from Crest? Now, sentient AI might take longer than Ray Kurzweil thinks. I mean, ChatGPT still gets caught cheating on homework. But I bet you our customer base will almost certainly include some form of sentient AI capable of making buying decisions for its own needs. All right. How will we trade value for value with AI? We argue about monetary policy. We argue about central banking, fiat currency, inflation. What currency of exchange will we need to trade with AI? These are big questions. And like the 10,000-year clock, we're going to have to design our operating system with the ability to address these big questions. Let's look at the fourth group, systems thinking. We'll need to design our systems for exponential complexity. First question, how will we span the knowledge gap? What's the knowledge gap? All right, if we plot time on the x-axis, and then we plot capacity for knowledge for humans, you get a line. It's got a low slope. That means we're improving our ability to learn new information, but it's growing really slowly. The amount of information in the world is growing exponentially. So the gap is growing exponentially. And since none of us can possibly know everything, we have to rely on others to bridge that gap. How will we know who we can trust? How will we know who's credible? How will we discern truth from fiction? Is trust dead, or are we just in a process of rebuilding trust? Second question, how will we retain institutional memory? At the 2019 reunion, Rand Stagen asked us to write down the first names of our parents, our grandparents, and our great-grandparents. Some of you remember. Most of us blanked out at the first names of our great-grandparents. We forgot our ancestors in 2 generations. At Crest, we teach our people fail fast and learn, right? Don't punish people for making mistakes, as long as they learn from them. But if we forget the lessons that we've learned in 2 generations, we're going to be relearning the same lessons over and over again. We'll never make it to 1,000 years. Third question, how will we tame the incredible power and unintended consequences of everything that will be unleashed by what we'll develop over the next 1,000 years? I mean, nuclear weapons are child's play compared to what's coming. Have you ever heard of Stuxnet? Stuxnet is an internet virus. If you haven't, look up a documentary called 0 Days on Netflix. 0 Days. The amount of power that we already put into the hands of any one individual threatens all of humanity. I think we need a new enlightenment. I think we need a new renaissance. Fifth group. I got to have a shout out to my dear friend Vid Deva. Vid says, complexity has a PR problem. Yeah, Vid, you're right. Like it or not, we have to deal with exponential complexity in our systems thinking. So now let's look at the fifth bucket of questions, cosmic purpose. I still remember in the ILP, Rand Stagen asking us to write down our life's purpose in 2 minutes. I mean, Rand, 2 minutes? Really? Well, I stuck with it. Crest Industries' purpose is to challenge and empower individuals and organizations to grow beyond what they believe is possible. I want to show you something. This image is from the James Webb Telescope in orbit around the Earth. The James Webb Telescope is looking further into the universe than humanity has ever seen. And this is just one of millions of images that are out there. I think Crest's purpose will last a decade or 2. But for 1,000 years, I think we're going to need something bigger, something beyond Crest, something even beyond humanity, something eternal. I call it cosmic purpose. So first question, how far can we see? How far do we look? I introduced you to Andrew Galambos earlier. He was a physicist and a philosopher. He wrote a rare book called Sic Itur ad Astra, which is Latin for this way to the stars. Columbus was trying to figure out and tell humanity what we would need to do to get out to the stars. I remember when I was 6 years old on a black and white TV screen, watching Neil Armstrong land on the moon. Wow. My brother, who's with us today, he and I, we watched that, and our dad would tell us stories about when he was stationed out at White Sands, New Mexico, working on the Nike missile program. He was in the military. And this was the early days of rocketry. And he and his colleagues would talk about, well, you know we're going to space. Yeah. Would you go? Hell yeah, I'll be on the first ship. What about you? Well, maybe not the first one. I'll see how it works out, and to get it working, yeah, I think I'll go. My brother and I wanted to go to space so bad, we were fascinated. We would dream about space at night, and then we'd talk about our dreams the next morning. We still want to go to space, and we're not the only ones. My two boys, two of my three children, are in the audience today. They too want to go to the stars, just like their dad, their uncle, and their grandfather. They also want to be part of building the infrastructure. Now, honestly, I would love nothing more than to have both of them working at my side right now. I miss them so much. But they think the best way to get to the stars is what they're doing right now, working in the space industry for Lockheed Martin. And I have to respect that. In fact, I'm pretty damn proud of them. When we were growing up, my dad, whenever he thought we weren't listening to him, he'd say, "Boy, you better listen to me. I ain't gonna be around here forever." And it worked. But then when we'd ask him, "Daddy, where do you go when you die?" He'd say, "Oh man, I don't know. I really don't know. I think maybe you just go back where you came from. But I really don't know." And then he'd say, "I just know if you look up at all those stars, the vastness of the cosmos, it just goes on and on and on. How many stars are out there? What's out there? We don't know. We just don't know." We'd spend hours gazing at the stars, pondering the universe and talking about it. We lost my dad in 2015 to pancreatic cancer. Sucks. And I still look at the stars every chance I get. And I wonder, maybe he's out there somewhere. Can we see far enough out to find our cosmic purpose? I'm telling you guys, my brothers, my sisters, all of you, we need a new enlightenment. We need a new renaissance. Second question, how do we bring about a new enlightenment, a new renaissance? I find it interesting. The first enlightenment coincided with developments in optical glass, telescopes, microscopes, and the printing press created widespread literacy, improved communication. It increased how far we can see and, Curtis, how many people are included in how far we can see. It brought the scientific method to the forefront with peer review, not approval by authority, peer review, as the dominant way to discern truth from fiction. It expanded our understanding of the depths of the universe to a level we'd never seen in humanity before, and it improved our quality of life to new levels in human history. How far could a new enlightenment expand our ability to see and understand? And how many more people could be included in that ability to see? I believe a new enlightenment, a new renaissance is coming. And I believe we are going to bring it about. You and me. Third question. What really matters? Why are we here? You tell me what you care about, and I'll tell you how big you are. When I first met Rand, he asked me, Kenny, how far can you see in the future? How far do you look? And I told him, Rand, one of the saddest moments that I can remember was listening to a radio program. Some scientists were talking about trying to determine what's the minimum energy differential required in the universe to sustain life. And they calculated a number. Then they asked, looking at the rate of expansion of the universe, how long is it going to take until all the energy in the universe moves from high temperature to low temperature, and that differential is too small to sustain life? And I just remember how sad I was thinking about the death of the universe itself. And thinking, no, we can't have this. Now, Rick Vord and I share a belief that the universe itself is alive and intelligent. What is our cosmic purpose? Why are we here? Why is any of this here? Why is the universe here? Could it be that our cosmic purpose is to know the universe while it lives and to bring awareness, choice, and responsibility to our living universe? That's the existential question. I want us to build this business, this culture, the way we see one another, the way we treat one another. I want to build it so strong, so grounded in reality, so rooted in the best parts of humanity, that it will prosper beyond 1,000 years. Man, I wish I could be there. I wish I could be there to see our descendants go to the stars, bring the universe to life, carrying our values and our purpose with them. They're going to fail, they're going to learn, and they'll carry on our business. In this cosmic context, the life of the universe, 1,000 years doesn't seem that long. But if we overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in 10, imagine what we could do in 1,000 years. Now, that's my talk. The reality, I'm not going to kid you, we're living in a wicked moment. Rick talked about that. That really touched my heart when Rick talked about that. I believe in human capacity. I believe in you, and I believe in myself. And if there's anybody in the world to do this, it's us. And one thing I learned from Andrew Galambos, it doesn't take convincing 100% of the people. It doesn't even take convincing a majority. It just takes a critical few. I think we're that critical few. And I'm not going anywhere. I'm here, and I'm part of this. But one day I will be gone. And if my children, my family, or anybody who knows me ever wants to find me, you know where to look. Just look to the stars. Thank you.